Hello humans, it's just Martine, but this week I'm not going to be reading like myself. Basically, I had this idea to try other people's reading routines, which sounds like kind of a weird and niche video to make, but I think that it would be interesting, and this channel is all about things that I find interesting, so here we are. So if you guys like this video, definitely comment down below or smash that like button to let me know to turn this into a series. But I'm going to start with somebody whose reading routine I find really unique and intriguing, and that is Bailey from Is Bailey Reading. She's one of my friends, and she reads in this really interesting way where her goals are not like page counts or a number of books necessarily, but instead a number of hours. So she tracks things by time, and I asked her to elaborate, and she said that there are two things of note. From my understanding, she tries to read about an hour a day most months. She said, the only major thing is that I double my goal on the weekend, so 2 hours a day, and tend to read in 30 to 60 minute chunks, which is going to be a challenge for me. And she makes herself read at least 30 minutes every day, and she catches up on days if she falls behind with the time goal. So even if she doesn't read the full amount of time on one day, she makes up for it elsewhere. Does that make sense? So I'm gonna try to read like that this week. It's Sunday night, so I'm mentally preparing myself. I'll check in tomorrow and see how it's going. Day one of reading like Bailey. So far I've read half an hour. It's now 8:09 p.m. so I've got to get down to reading, get my last half hour done for the day so that I reach my hour mark. Right now I'm reading Children of Virtue and Vengeance, even though I have almost no memory of what happened in the first book in the series. I'm gonna set my forest timer now. About 1 hour of reading got me to about 20% of Children of Virtue and Vengeance. It's 9 p.m. on Tuesday night, and the last thing I want to do is set a timer and read for half an hour right now, but I'm gonna, because that's what Bailey would do. Also, I don't want to get behind and have to make up my hours later in the week, because that sounds terrible. Luckily, I did read for half an hour before Bible study tonight. I read my audiobook, but it was for half an hour because I got through 1 hour of it and I was listening at 2 times the speed. Yeah, only half an hour to go today, but I still don't want to. But I also just made myself write and I didn't want to, so it's okay. I have been putting off today's reading all day. It is now 6:50 p.m. and this moment is no different. I think the main problem I'm running into so far is like, I don't like people to put time limits on things that I have to do. Like, I prefer to have a certain amount to do and then that take a certain amount of time. Usually because I often greatly overestimate the time that I'll need to get something done. So then I finish it earlier than I think I will and I'm like, yay. That is not the case when you measure by time. When you measure by time, a half hour is a half hour. It's not going to shorten itself. And I don't love that. Like, even YouTube videos, call me crazy. I watch them on 2 times the speed, unless they're in French, of course, because then it's way too fast. And I watch it on normal speed, which feels like 2 times the speed, because language. But I like to hack everything for it to take less time than it should. There's nothing worse than something saying it will take a certain amount of time. I don't know why. Like, standardized testing, always the worst, because it took a certain amount of time and you couldn't leave before that time, and that's stupid. I think this is a really clever way to read. I'm just saying that today I have dreaded reading, and so I'm going to continue avoiding it for now. I just made myself read for half an hour. I changed which book I was reading to kind of inspire me to do that. I really don't want to do my second half hour of reading. Bailey said that her minimum, she makes herself read 30 minutes a day, so I've reached today's minimum. I don't have to read the other half hour, but I'd really like to so that I don't have to catch up later this week, because that would suck. But we'll see what the night brings. It's like 9:36 and I'm staying up till like midnight tonight so that I can wish my friend a happy birthday, jump on a Zoom call when her birthday strikes. So I have a little extra time, but yeah, we'll just see. I did it. I read for another half an hour, making an hour total today. The secret was just to read my audiobook, not my ebook. I'm enjoying my ebook, but it's a fantasy and I'm just not in the mood for that. My audiobook is Beach Read, and it's literally so good so far, so. If you're ever having trouble getting up the motivation to read, consider switching what you're reading. Not permanently, just in that moment. Mood read per moment, as it were, instead of whole books. That's why I try to have a balance of different genres going at once, and why I don't read one book at a time, because it makes me hate reading, frankly. It's Thursday, and I just managed to squeeze in 30 minutes of reading my ebook before I head to my last class of the day. I bribe myself with Cheez-Its. I'm not above bribing myself to read sometimes. Comment down below your favorite bribes for reading. I'm curious. At this point, I've said several times on my channel that sparkling water is a bribe for me. Sometimes soda, snacks, all the fun stuff. Yeah, that was actually a really enjoyable 10% of the book that I was reading. So I don't know why I've been putting it off for the past couple days, but that's reading sometimes. You're really enjoying something and suddenly you're like, I don't want to read this. Half of an hour done for reading today, half an hour to go. I am taking the L tonight. I got half an hour of reading done earlier, but I had an absolutely wild and hectic night, and now I'm too tired to care. So I'm not gonna read anymore, and instead I'm gonna go to bed, and I'll catch up on this lost half hour at some point this week. Good night. It's 10:37 on Friday night, and I actually did do my 1 hour of reading for today via audiobook because that was the story that I felt like reading today. And it's so good so far. I'm reading Beach Read, and it feels like it will be a 5-star read. That's my audiobook right now. But at this moment, I'm inspired to catch up on my 30 minutes that I missed yesterday in my ebook, Children of Virtue and Vengeance. So that'll hit the 50% mark. So that's super exciting. I would definitely love to finish that this weekend. As long as I continue reading as much as I'm supposed to this weekend, I will, which is super exciting. But I also want to relax for the night and treat myself, have happy associations with reading. So we all know where I'm going with that. I have sparkling water. They added a new flavor to the place where I get my sparkling water on campus. And so I'm going to do a taste test that no one asked for. It's blackberry flavored. I was intrigued. Cheers. Good. I don't know what I was expecting, but I definitely understand how that is blackberry flavored. Yummy. That would be a great ice cream. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna read now. I just finished doing my last half hour of reading for today out of the 2 hours that Bailey typically reads on weekend days. And I felt like it was a good amount of reading. I think the only way that I got through it though was by switching between books, like not every 5 seconds or something, but like doing a 30-minute chunk of this book and then a 30-minute chunk of that book. And then, yeah, instead of just being like, I'm only going to read this book today. Also, yesterday I listened to Beach Read for a full hour, and that will be the only time that I do a full hour chunk for this experiment, because I know Bailey says that she reads in 30 or 60-minute chunks typically, but I just can't focus for that long. I just can't do it. That's the update for tonight. I'm enjoying the books that I'm reading, but I don't know when this happened in my life. I have stopped just being able to focus on one book at a time. I have to switch back multiple times in a day, back and forth. Keeps it fresh, keeps me going strong, keeps me reading fast. I don't know what it is about it, but let me know if you have to do that too. It's Sunday morning, and I just finished my 2 hours of reading for today because I was so loving the book that I was reading that I just had to finish it. It was Beach Read by Emily Henry. It's hyped for a reason. I gave it 5 stars, so that's awesome. Although I might read some more today, I've fulfilled like all of my hours of required reading for this week, so I want to discuss this method of tracking reading and how it made me feel overall now that we're looking back at the end of the week. So I have a couple thoughts straight off. I think it's really uplifting to have this number by the end of the week of time that you know that you've spent reading, because like I felt like I've barely read this week, and then I can be like, actually you read for 9 hours and you read for more than 9 hours, and that's super cool and inspiring, because I'm like, wow, when I don't feel like I'm doing a lot of reading, I'm still like reading a ton, which is awesome, because I don't typically track by like the week how much reading I get done, not because like I'm not curious or because I feel like it's too competitive, as it were, but because I just don't think to, and I don't have a system set to track it. That being said, I feel like having a set amount of time I need to reach is not, like, it wouldn't continue to be motivating for me in a way. Reading very much felt like an obligation, but I feel like if there was a way for me to fully track the amount of time that I read in a week or the pages I read, that might be a cool thing to incorporate into my reading life, like on a weekly basis, because I can see it through like Goodreads at the end of the month, how much I've read and whatever, but I think it's super cool to be like, this week I had a crazy busy week, and like, look what I still accomplished in this other section of my life. I think that's super cool. I like that Bailey has these 30 minutes at least in a day where she tries to read, and that outside of the 30 minutes in her time goal, it can shift to different days when she wants to. I only shifted time once, but like, if I were to do this on a longer term basis, I think I would definitely ebb and flow like that, because this morning it was super easy for me to read for 2 hours, but like some days it was impossible for me to sit there and like even get half an hour done, or it felt impossible. I really appreciated especially tracking during the weekend, because the weekend is when most people, including myself, have the most time to read. But I'm so set on relaxing and just doing what I feel like doing on the weekend sometimes that like I often neglect to get quote unquote enough reading done to make me feel like really good, to help me continue to progress in books. And it's not that like I have to progress in books or that there's any worth in like finishing a certain number of books for me. It's that reading feels good. Like I know I'm happier when I read more. So tracking it is a way to like make sure, not force myself, but force myself to do the things that make me happy. And that's why habit trackers are really handy for me. And if you want me to talk more about my personal habit tracker, comment down below. But I think these types of challenges where like I make something a priority in my life, that although it's something that I like to do and that I do often, is not necessarily on my to-do list. I think that's really powerful, because I think when you put things that matter to you inherently on your to-do list, you're prioritizing yourself and your happiness and your wellness. And that's why I find tracking habits in general and making sure I complete them to be beneficial for me, because then I know, you know, I did this thing that makes me feel good. I did this thing that makes me feel good. I did this thing that I needed to do to feel good. This seems so convoluted. The point is that much like any type of habit tracking, if reading is something that makes you happy, I think it's beneficial to track it or to have a certain goal for it in the week, because it makes you prioritize yourself sometimes. And sometimes that feels impossible to do. I feel like I would personally feel more accomplished if I tracked by pages instead of time. Time just goes so slowly. I don't know. I also don't like reading in large chunks. Like I like reading in small chunks, like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 10 minutes of this book, then I get bored, I switch to another book. Like that works better for me. However, I felt like each time I sat down to read, I knew I was going to make significant progress. So there's a trade-off. But all in all, I really liked this experiment. So a couple of things before you go. One, I'm going to leave a survey in the description about reading routines. If you feel so inclined, please fill it out so that I can make more videos like this in the future and test out your interesting reading habits and routines. I would love that. If you liked the concept for this video, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below what videos you'd like to see me do next. If there are any other people whose reading routines you'd like to see me emulate for a week, and whether or not you track how much reading you get done in a week. And subscribe for more reading, writing, and college lifestyle content on Wednesdays and Sundays. And until next time, bye humans, bye!